Welcome back to another episode of the Higher Love with Megan podcast, talking all things mind, body, soul, healing and expansion with me, your host, Megan Cooper. Up on the podcast this week, we have Felix Price. After a spiritual awakening age 20, Felix has spent the last 18 years exploring different traditions and developed a synergy of systems that complement each other to create what he calls mixed spiritual arts. This acts as an open umbrella term for all forms of spirituality, sharing the foundation of love, health, gratitude, and dedication, ranging across art, music, movement, ceremony, and much more. With Felix's diverse travels, experiencing diverse spiritual traditions and technologies, I was interested to speak to him about how to connect, what these cultures share, what we've as a culture lost or neglected, and what we seem to be re-seeking individually and collectively. This is an incredibly thought-provoking and super interesting conversation, and for me, it really blows the lid off our perception of reality and also what we define as spiritual. In essence, mixed spiritual arts for the modern day. Enjoy. Okay, Felix, well, I'm very excited to have this conversation with you, so thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, very excited to be here. Love this. Thank you.
Awesome. So how about we begin with a little bit of an introduction to yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I was born in London in 1985 and I grew up in a very artistic family. So making art and paintings and music was always a big part of my life. I left school, went to art college and was passionate about making paintings and artwork and creativity and expression like that. And then I had a spiritual experience when I was 20 at the Glastonbury Festival that opened my eyes to a whole new realm of realities, spirituality, universal connection and universal consciousness. And after that experience, I became really, really interested in spirituality. And then for the last 18 years, I've been exploring different traditions from different parts of the world and lots of traveling, and then going far away from society and modern life, and then coming back to it and integrating it and doing my best to create something that make a spiritual practice appropriate for the modern world. And I call that mixed spiritual arts. And me and my wife created a foundation, a community called Urban Avatars. So that's what I share. I call it Urban Avatars Mixed Spiritual Arts, which is like an umbrella term for everything that I do and share and practice, being fine art, music, and spirituality, ceremonies, well-being, meditation.
Awesome. How would you generally expand on that mixed spiritual arts? What does it encompass?
Yeah, so it's open for all forms of art really, and with it being open to a spiritual element, a spiritual aspect of it, I guess that's kind of a defining filter. Like, is it is this spiritual? Like, could you call this spiritual? And for me, I can see spirituality everywhere. So for me, it's everything. I guess for someone else looking in on it, it's the doorway, the threshold is spirituality. Like, are you interested at all in like spirituality in any of its forms? If so, here's what we're offering. It can be anything. It can be anything within that realm. I believe that it is already widely practiced. It is actually already, like, the environment that lots of people live in and experience is already mixed spiritual arts. It's just that I was seeking a term to describe it. I'd done training in India with the Himalayan traditions and yoga and Buddhism and Qigong, and had these different traditions, and for years used the phrase yoga teacher and yoga classes and advertised myself as a yoga teacher and yoga studios and stuff. And I felt at some point, out of respect for the mix that I was being inspired to share, that there was another way to describe it rather than calling it something yoga or some kind of yoga. Well, yoga's yoga. Yoga has been yoga for thousands and thousands of years. Out of respect for yoga, I'll channel, I'll call in, I'll create a new name that can give me free license to mix everything and adapt it to different situations. So I begun practicing mixed martial arts classes at the time, MMA, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, watching MMA, like inspired by that. And I was like, okay, MMA, that's simple. Like, they get it. What is MMA? It's a whole mix of all the different traditions from here, there, and everywhere. And you go in that thing, and the guys can do any kind of the mixtures, really. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing a bit of yoga, a bit of qigong, a bit of Amazon, a bit of Africa, a bit of Stonehenge, a bit of North America. Like, what is this? How can I describe this? And it was like, boom, mixed spiritual arts.
Awesome. So what would you say are the main things that you're trying to teach people, or for people to experience through your work, through experiencing mixed spiritual arts?
Great question. I think there's layers, checkpoints to this that really start with pain being the first thing to address. It's like it's like a pyramid or something, you know, like, and the base is becoming pain-free. It's what inspired the beginning of my whole journey, this intense back pain and sciatica of trapped nerves and stuff, because I was very tightly grew very fast, and my posture was all out of alignment, and I had these really tight nerves in my legs, and I started getting really bad back pain. Went to my first yoga classes, and then felt it all melt away. That was life-changing for me as well, like being able to feel it move away just by listening to this woman describe the relaxation and doing some of these stretches. I literally walked out of the class and then into this park nearby, and then met up with some friends, and was just saying what I'd done. I'd just been to this class, and oh, what happened? What was that like? And I just kind of described it. And one of my friends was like, oh yeah, I've got really bad back actually right now. And I said, oh, try this. And I did like this cat stretch, like the kind of up dog, down dog. And he did a few. He did like 3, and he was like, oh, my back pain's gone. And I was like, wow, that was easy. See, that's all you needed to do. And that was kind of like my first class, and my first straight away began kind of sharing it with people. But I guess it was inspired by the relief I felt from relieving the pain. So there's, as kind of as a beginning thing, it's helping people get out of pain, helping people release unnecessary tensions or get realigned, or, you know, unknot trapped nerves or something, so that their body isn't in pain. That one really, like, that really bugs me in a way, like seeing, like, feeling people in pain and being knowing simple things that they could do to release it and let it go. So there's that at like the base, and then I guess like layers and layers of refinement towards becoming pain-free, and then becoming the opposite of pain-free, which is full of joy, full of bliss, like feeling great, having healthy relationships. Based all the things I share on 3 main things: self-love, gratitude, and dedication. Helping people connect with their own self-love. That repeatedly over many different encounters with traditions and teachers really stuck out as a really, really important foundation for anything spiritual, is the way that we feel about ourselves, and how we feel about ourselves reflects how we interact with everybody else. So that's been like the main root of my own practice, self-love, and then sharing that with other people, helping them connect with themselves. Beyond that, higher and higher, it goes beyond, and it goes up to learning new abilities, and ultimately beginning to really question our models of reality as a society living in 2023. Now, this, like, the state of consciousness, like the frequency of consciousness that we share, and beginning to test that, challenge it, expand it beyond the kind of like normal layers and levels of ability that we perceive are possible, and going into new areas of research. I call it levitation research. Yeah, traveling around India and meeting these mystics and gurus and reading these legends and myths. One of these things like occurred again and again of the potential we have as humans. The human potential is beyond, far greater than is currently like widely accepted or understood. but they were always like these very mystic examples of saints being able to fly or levitate or teleport, or the magicians or the shamans, like walking skywalkers, and all these things felt very, very far away and mystic. And I just at some point was like, well, if someone could just do that in front of other people, like clearly, plainly, that would be a really interesting moment for humanity. We have a calendar that is based. We say the year is 2023. What 2023? What years since the story of a man was recorded who, for a brief period, demonstrated different abilities of a different level or frequency than those around him. You know? Like our whole society is so based around the story of this one person. And I was like, well, what if we just started doing that again? That would be really interesting. So I see like this very interesting journey for society now, where currently no one's doing that. You see David Blaine does some amazing things, and magicians do amazing illusions, or even to see like Usain Bolt run 100 meters in 9 seconds is amazing, but it's still within like the physical parameters of possibility that we accept. There's currently no one like demonstrating supernatural abilities. So I find that very interesting, and I find it very interesting that I believe that it's possible, but I haven't ever seen it. I haven't done it myself, but I share it because every time I'm in the journeys in deep psychedelic states, it's what I see. It's what I get shown, and it's in many ways it's what I get told to do. But in these extra dimensional realities, they're like, this is what's going to happen. Everyone's going to be doing this soon, and someone's going to be the first person. So just ride the wave. So that's what I'm going. Pain free, feel good, learn how to fly.
Love it. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you do that. Make it possible for all of us. With all of the different teachings, practices, modalities, lineages that you have combined through mixed spiritual arts. They're diverse traditions from different places, historically, geographically. But what would you say are the common themes, or do they have common themes? Traveling all over the world, experiencing different practices that you then bring together that perhaps we've lost in our Western society?
Yeah, nice. Yeah, there's a lot of singing and dancing happening in lots of
so true.
lots of places that have these things that help us feel good. Singing and dancing is a big part of, wherever you go around the world, the drum and the fire, whatever language people are talking in, being in a circle around the fire and making noises and sounds, and everyone making the same sound together is a very uniting thing. And whether I've been in the Himalayas or the Amazon, that's a very uniting element. North America, South America, England, like all the continents. That's a very universal aspect to it. I think as well. Well, I know as well the spiritual science of understanding that what we're experiencing now. I say I'll share with you what I'm experiencing is that I'm looking at a laptop, I'm talking to you, I'm aware of this, I'm sat in my body, I'm in a room, like all these things that I feel like I'm aware of. There's this experience, and then simultaneously, just like all around, there's lots and lots of other frequencies and dimensions, worlds of information that I'm currently not super aware of right now. Stuff is looking like normal for me right now. Normal thing, normal door, normal everything, right? And yet, in certain states, altered states, we can become aware of vast spectrums of dimensions, extra dimensional realities. And I see all around the world, people have known how to connect with these in different ways, had different technologies, different practices, different exercises, different sounds, different movements, different plants that they take, and then it's possible to go into different states of consciousness and experience different realities. So I see that as universal, all across the world. This ability to journey into other dimensions.
Yeah. I feel that we are so innately drawn into seeking beyond, yet to a great extent, the mystical, let's say, has really become something that has been strongly eradicated or we're very disconnected from within our westernized society, as opposed to in a lot of other cultures. What's happened for us here?
I think it looks like on a big overview picture. I'll share this going from things I've seen, and it's based on documentaries, it's based on pieces of information that I've been observing. And before 12,000 years ago, there was this level of consciousness that I'm describing was all around the world, and there were civilizations present that had been in this state of consciousness for a lot longer, and living and experiencing this realm, this planet in this way. And then there's a lot of information, it's very interesting to look at, that makes it really seem like a big asteroid hit the planet and in one day completely wiped out a vast amount of what was going on. So these civilizations were flooded, it seems like maybe it was North America, and there was a completely different state with the ice at the time. There was way more ice. The asteroid hit the ice, massive meltwater, massive flooding, and sea levels rising, and all these civilizations that were on the coasts and in other parts of the world that are underwater now just went bloop. And it was, the whole sky was covered in ash and for many years. And I think we've been kind of crawling ourselves back from that, really. That I'd probably bet on that if I had to. Like I say, I'm not sure. I don't really know. But there's a lot of things that make a really interesting case for that. And I think it's been this long, slow crawling back from that point of like refinding ourselves. And that did happen. And there's been many civilizations since then who've lived in like high states of connection and awareness and consciousness. I think for us, as I speak for even just me and you, like we have English accents, we grew up in England at this time. Our spiritual ancestry was basically annihilated like a couple of thousand years ago by the Roman Empire traveling around and spreading their empire. Before they arrived, like our ancestry in England was deeply connected with all these, with the dream state, with the web of weird, like, which is their word for fate and connection, and the universe, really, the understanding of God and nature and spirits and rites of passage and community, and the whole essence of reality was deeply based in this. And this empire spread around and completely disconnected that. So I think over the last 2,000 years, as Europeans, we've been disconnected from our ancestral ways of connecting shamanically, tribally, extra dimensionally to our spiritual essence and home and roots. So that becomes all these years later, 2 world wars, and then it gets to the point where, like in the 60s, out of the blue, like comes these little specks of magic through the tablets, through the tabs and stuff, where one guy in his bathroom can make enough LSD to dose 10,000 people just in a little cup's worth. And that, like, spreading around and people gathering and having those experiences was like, poop, 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 poop. Whoa, this, all right. And there's this deep memory of it, because I always find as soon as I'm in that state and I open the third eye and immerse in that, it just feels like home. It's like the most familiar feeling, like waking up from a dream. It's like, oh yeah, oh yeah, this, yeah, oh yeah. Like, how could I forget? How could I forget it? So that kind of like spreading around, and then looking in the environment for like what connects. Because if you're say you're 18 in like 1968 and you all of a sudden opened your third eye, you're looking around your like current cultural landscape, and you've got the church, really, like the Christianity was kind of like the only thing that's like talking about God or the divine. But then experiencing like a big separation between what you're feeling and what they're talking about, then it's like who gets this? And then it's like, okay, people in India, okay, they get it. Like, so people go to India and India's like, yeah, spirituality, yeah, man, like, what do you want? Like, they're so open. It's such an easy temple to enter. Like, no rule, like, oh, Hindu, yeah, have a dot, chant this, yeah, no problem. It's very like, get started and get rolling. And that I think is like what's been a big magnet for a lot of people, because it's so easy to get involved with. And then also now, like, people connecting with South American traditions, because it's like, hey, yeah, don't worry, come in, join us, like, we're good. Like, we've been like, their fire's been burning the whole time. Like, it has its challenges and it's a lot of stuff going on, and India as well. It's a lot of challenges, but the fire in the temple has kept burning the whole time. So myself, as a white British person, that's where I found like a bridge to understanding what was going on with myself. It was Hindu traditions, it was Amazonian traditions, and then eventually it has come back to like original indigenous UK traditions as well. But there's a lot of healing to be done for us to connect with it, because my father didn't take me when I was 12 into the woods and teach me, the ways of the the fire and the earth and the water and all these things, and like we didn't have that as like a setting thing. So I think the searching through other cultures has been a natural part of this big healing that's been going on for a long time. That maybe originated all the way from 12,000 years ago, where the golden age of this spirituality was destroyed in one moment.
I love what you were saying there in terms of connecting into these higher spaces and actually feeling, instead of completely alien or foreign, feeling like a remembering, like a coming home to something that was always there. I can definitely relate to that. Feeling like there was something more to the world than what I was physically seeing and perceiving. Feeling like there was something kind of superimposed onto the reality that I was experiencing. And when I had my first spiritual experience, connecting me to a sense of this interconnectedness, a sense of bigger depth, more than what we just perceive or feel with the naked eye. And that really feeling like this coming home, like a big exhale, One of my teachers describes it as knowing that and not knowing that, knowing that connection and not knowing that connection, knowing that love and not knowing that love. And I think that in our society, there is a lot of not knowing it, but also a big yearning to know it. It's like we're looking for something that we don't even know what it looks like or what it feels like, but we just know that there is something else. And that's why we're so drawn to these other cultures, but also knowing that there is such a big lineage at home for us to connect to as well. Oh, so much to remember. Okay, so what would you say you consider to be your vision?
Helping people feel good in themselves, helping people connect with good, healthy habits that support their well-being, their relationships, their impact on society, and bit by bit ripple out good feeling, health and well-being. That's like the simple light answer is that really pushing the frontiers of what's possible. My grand vision is creating a center, like a self-sustainable center in nature, to really be able to go deeper into my own personal practice and share space and hold space with other people to heal very, very strong, very important things, and really, as I say, develop and discover the full potential that we have. So my path has been about creating something that can serve a lot of people, and then creating a space where to be able to receive a lot of people to come and go deeply and connect deeply with nature and themselves through ceremony, through just being in nature as well, and also creating places that are self-sustainable within themselves, so independent, off grid. Really, like, I say off grid, but then I kind of like I've at some point I kind of began thinking of very off grid was quite a funny phrase. And I was like, well, it's off that grid, but it's in different grids.
Still like in a grid.
Yeah, grid of water and earth and the sun and the moon and the planet. Like that kind of grid, like original grid or something. But yeah, not dependent on the electricity and the water in the pipes and the food in the supermarkets. That's been a big mission for me as well. From a long time ago, pre 2012, there's a lot of bold headlines and themes going on in the different kind of conscious communities about 2012 and the purges and ends of systems and stuff. So I was like, right, okay, cool. Let's get ready. Let's make somewhere that's not dependent on all that stuff, and that's still what I'm working towards.
Awesome. This theme keeps coming up around ceremonies, and you've mentioned, rites of passage and things like that. And it seems that from our society, the way that we live, ceremony is something that feels quite neglected, certainly in comparison to quite a lot of other cultures. Could you speak a little bit to that? The power of ceremony, let's say.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think the word ceremony is a very powerful word. I think that what it has the key to do is open up a different state of experience. From the opening of a ceremony to the closing of a ceremony, there's something that can shift where it opens up potentials for different kinds of connection. Interesting when you said it, it did make me think of the coronation that happened just recently, and even also the beginning of a World Cup or Olympics. We always have the opening ceremony and a wedding ceremony as well. So there it is still, like, in our cultural landscape, and highly respected, and highly invested in. Like, I don't know how much money the king's coronation cost, but it's a big deal. It's like a very, very important thing that people very, very respect and really tune into. So it's interesting to note, though, that there's that. On one side, there's like the king's coronation, the ceremony of the crowning of the king, and yet such a lack of ceremony in day-to-day life, or for the majority of people. When we spoke about the church and Christianity has there's an element of ceremony in Christianity, but we're in this kind of gap, I think, as a society that is clearly stepping away from church and connection to Christianity and looking for something else. And that I found personally through ayahuasca ceremonies. I think those were the first ceremonies that I went to. Before that, it was classes, it was workshops. Like yoga was based around workshops and classes. I'd never been to a yoga ceremony before that. Before that point, it was just which I also found interesting. At some point when I was teaching yoga, I began to just call my things yoga ceremonies. So I had Monday to Friday, 10 till 11. Yoga. This is my yoga ceremony. I just called it a ceremony, and I
Love
just call
that.
things. I generally call things ceremonies now. Like when I share, because I like the space that it invokes. Just through that word, like the invitation of like, yeah, it's an hour on a Tuesday morning, and you're gonna do some stretching and breathing. But this can be ceremonial. Like honor yourself, bless yourself. The sacrament is your just the air and the breathing and your sweat. Cacao ceremonies have been an interesting uh, like bridge, like gap. You know, they're helping people um, move, make the gap. Bridges to deeper spaces as well. Recently, coming into like the spiritual scene of the modern urban society and stuff.
I love what you're saying there in terms of shifting the language around something being a ceremony or creating ceremony within our day to day. What do you feel like that does energetically?
I feel it makes it feel a lot more important, makes
Mm.
it feel a lot more sacred, makes it a lot more special, more divine, even more spiritual. It's like it raises the frequency, like it deepens the honor of the experience, and puts clearly on it that the intention of this is to have this spiritual experience. So I was calling them ceremonies for a long time, and I think it was a bit of a funny one because a lot of people aren't used to it. Like people, there's things that people kind of got used to with like a yoga class that kind of became normalized.
Hmm.
And I get what that's everything about. So when I put yoga ceremonies, it was like, oh, what is this? And then go that journey. But I think it makes it clear. It's like it's being clear with what I'm intending to do, and I'm intending to create a space for people to have a deep spiritual experience. But even if it's an hour through stretching and breathing and relaxing, that can still
Mm. How would you say that your life is different now from living in this way, from doing this work, from following this path?
yeah. So for me, before it all changed on this like one day, this one moment, 24th of June 2005. I can remember it so vividly of this shift of realization of that I wasn't like the only consciousness thing, that there was this higher awareness all around me. And previously up to that point, I described myself. I'd been open-minded, artistic, creative, generally like trying to be a nice guy, whatever, like trying to be like a nice person, and but I had no like understanding of God. Like I was like I kind of say agnostic. I had previously described myself as agnostic. I was like, well, I don't know. I don't know. It's not. I don't know that it is. And I hadn't really been thinking about it that much. I was more interested in materiality stuff, cultural stuff, being cool, whatever, raving, like that kind of stuff. Like that's more where my focus was. And then when I had this experience with mushrooms in Glastonbury, I was looking at the sun, and there I was running through this big field with my arms wide open and looking at the sun, and there was some clouds over the sun. And as I was running towards it, they like appeared and the sun shone through, and I just saw clear as I'd never seen it before, but I was like, it's an eye, and it's looking down on me, and it was like the whole sky was this massive face, and I just saw everything's connected. It's the grass, it's the trees, it's the clouds, it's the sun, it's every part of the sky, it's everyone I'm looking at. I could just see everything completely connected. Like it was, this life-changing quantum shift of awareness. And I, it was just like the most humbling, life-changing moment that I like was completely immersed in like the whole day. And in that moment, I felt like, oh, this is how I'm going to be forever. This is what I'm going to be experiencing forevermore. This is me now. I'm never not going to experience what I'm experiencing, like what I'm seeing. I could see everyone's auras and the tree aura and the woman sitting under the tree and it flowing through everything. And then the next day, I kind of woke up again and my normal level of consciousness had returned. And I was like, oh, isn't this interesting? I'm like, I'm back to normal. But I could remember. So I was like, have you ever seen those magic eye games from when we were? I haven't seen it for ages, but it was like if you'd look at it and it just looked like a random pattern, and if you kind of squinted, and all of a sudden you could see it. You could see like this picture that was in it. It was hidden that at first you couldn't see, and it was like that for me. It was like having seen this pattern that was all around me, and then not being able to see it again. And I was like, wow, how do I see it again? How do I feel like that again? Like that's me now. That's like the most important thing in my life. Is to be in that state, is to feel that the whole time. So I began looking into ways of experiencing it, and that's where I say like I was looking for places, and the easy ones to get access to were yoga and meditation and Buddhism, because they're just out there being like, yeah, come join us, come check it out. And I'll go to like the spiritual bookshops in London and get all the leaflets and just be like, okay, what's that thing, and trying out stuff, and Reiki and shamanic drumming and all. Like I was just super curious to develop it and find it out really. So I guess that's where I was before, had that experience, and then that began my journey of exploring and discovering everything that ultimately led me to India, led me to Peru and Brazil, and lots of times in those different places far away, learning ways to tune into it every day. And that's still where I am now. Like my practice now is to just, as often as possible, remember that state that I've experienced and look for it. Like I say, like I saw it in the sky and the sun and in Glastonbury and these trees. But what I've learned is that it's not only is it there when you're in that experience, it's here and now, it's in this room. It's in the wall, it's in the door, it's in everything I can see. This laptop is it. There's nothing that isn't it. So anytime that I think I'm not in it, that's for me to catch. So my practice is like catch it, remember, stay in the memory, hold the memory as long as possible. That's really where I'm at. Like day to day, it's like hide and seek with this cosmic self that's like all around me the whole time.
I love that. And it's a similar experience to something that I had. I went on my first Vipassana retreat when I was age 25. Day 3, I'm sat there and I'm like, fuck's sake, like all my friends were in Ibiza. Why am I here? Like, what am I doing here in this room full of weirdos? Like doing a body scan meditation. I'm like, I can't feel anything, like all the numbness, sitting there with like all the agitation. And then I got to my heart space and it was literally like something opened up and there was this like beautiful interchange of energy that was like I barely wanted to move or breathe because it was so subtle. It was like this, something was unraveling, something was connecting in a way that I hadn't experienced before, and I just had this overwhelming feeling of like I can't wait for it to be the break time because I need to get outside. And literally ran to the door, opened it up, and it was like seeing the world in HD, like for the first time ever. I was like, it's exactly the same, but it's totally different. And it was like everything was connected. It was like the trees and the birds were singing together and the wind traveling through the trees and the sky was bluer, the grass was greener. I was like, oh my God, like, is this what I've been in the whole time? And having these moments, it was like there was me before that moment and me after that moment. And similar to what you're saying, that even when I'm caught in the tussle of life and the day-to-day challenges and, you know, all of those things. It's remembering that that is there all of the time, and I guess creating our lives and our practices to connect to as much joy, vitality, freedom, abundance, all the things that are there all the time, coming back to those places.
Definitely, yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's all around. Yeah.
How does that come through in the inspiration behind your artwork? You're a very talented artist. We have one of your pieces at home. How does that play into your creative process?
Yeah, I'd always been making these drawings since I could remember. Like this freestyle drawing of lines and shapes and patterns and colors and like, what people call abstract, but never really knowing what it was about. And then when I had my first vision in the ceremony, in the ayahuasca ceremony, very, very first glimpse I saw, like within like just 2 seconds of this little glimpse of this little swirling, it was like black and white line. It just went, and I was like, that's what I've been drawing. That's what I've been doing. That's what I've been painting my whole time, or my whole life. Never been able to explain it to people. I was at art school and they're like, what is this about? And I'm like, I don't know, but I love doing it. I love looking at it. I seem to know, it seems to have like rules about how the thing's got a space and how they're gonna pattern themselves. Like I'm very, very particular about it. Like it's freestyled, but it's like I'm very like perfect, like this kind of element of perfectionism. Like when I'm doing it, like I know when I've got it right, and I know if I can't even make a mistake with it. Like I hardly ever like. It's something I just very, very, very careful with, like exactly what the rules are. The fractions, the way the patterns connect, the intersections of the lines. It's very, very precise. And when I have these visions, these inner visions, like through my third eye, like this experience behind the closed eyelids. You know, you're there in the dark with your eyes closed, and instead of it being blackness, all of a sudden, colors and forms and shapes appear on the inside of your head. This is what I experienced, and it was immediately this very familiar space and very comforting and this big relief to see this and to understand it. Like, this is what I've been connecting to. So what I feel happens for an artistic people, or even just to say people who allow this artistic expression to flow through them, because I believe that it's everyone can do this, has the potential for this to happen. Others seem to just be very attuned to it and can allow it and flow through them. Is that through our sense doors, the whole time we're absorbing all these different frequencies and parallel worlds, simultaneous dimensions are flowing in the whole time. What's happening is what we're doing as humans with our conscious mind is filtering all this information to make an internal representation of what's happening outside. So I said I can see the laptop here and I can see the door there, but really the light is bouncing off, going in, going upside down in my back of my eyes, going through the optic nerve, going inside, being received, combining with the sound and the smell and the feeling on my skin, and creating this internal representation of what's happening, which is a tiny, tiny percentage of all the information. So all the information is coming in, and when I open up into be in the artistic state of expression, be drawing or painting or even playing music, what that can draw from is the entirety of the information that's coming in. So rather than just the internal the thin slice of the internal representation, the artistic expression can draw on the entire feed, the entire inflow, and from that pick out rhythms and patterns and lines and circles and ratios and spaces, whether it's music, whether it's drawing or painting or dancing. We're like picking up shapes and geometries from our environment. So when I'm painting, I feel people will say like, "Where's it coming?" It's coming from, not from me, but through me. Like I'm a printer. If you have a printer and you send something to the printer and it prints it out, it's printing out from the printer, but the printer hasn't really printed it. Do you know what I mean? The information hasn't come from the printer. You've sent it into the printer and it's come out of the printer. But the printer was just the thing that it got printed through. So I feel like that when I'm painting, it's not like I'm making this up for myself. It's just like I'm like tuned in. This little part of me is like tuned into these frequencies, and I'm just like. So I really enjoy it because in some way I think this was my way of connecting to the spirit world, to these other dimensions, without really knowing what I was doing. But when I'm like there, I'm like 7, and I'm like sketchbooks of like just drawing away the whole time. What's actually happening is I'm tapping in to these frequencies, and when I had the psychedelics, that just kind of made everything a lot clearer as what was actually happening.
And something that keeps coming up is this desire to connect back to this deep wisdom, to be in it, to let it move through us.
Yeah.
How can somebody listening who is feeling that, yeah, I need that, how can they begin on this journey?
I think if you could just say 2 things, sing and dance. Like, just for the simplicity of the answer, sing and dance. And from there, tune into your dreams, dream awareness, because every night this thing happens to pretty much everybody, where there's a certain amount of time that people can tolerate being awake, and then at some point the human body will basically demand to be sleeped. Now that's going to be different for everybody, whether it's 10 hours, 15 hours, 2 days, whatever. At some point the human body is going to get put to sleep, and in that state, if we can tune into our dreams, every time we dream is this way of connecting deeply with our own inner shamanic juice inside our head, our own inner drip of dimethyltryptamine flowing through the inside of our brain. And when we dream, and when we see in our dreams see images, hear sounds, have conversations, have relationships, flow through stories, these are all ways for us to connect with that space. So every night is a chance to go super deep. It's an opportunity. If someone's not dreaming much and wants to dream more, eat earlier, have more time between when you eat and when you sleep. If someone's using a lot of cannabis, use less cannabis. That will increase the dreams. If you want to experience dreams more, have a dream diary beside your bed. When you wake up, while you're still, one of the first things you do, you reach over, have the page open, have the pen there, and just write whatever is freshness in whatever the last things that you can see or remember from your dream. Even if it's one word. I remember I was in a park, and then it can be like incense smoke just disappearing. And do that every day for 30 days, and you may find, like many people do, that through the repetition, the connection to remembering the dreams develops and gets stronger and stronger. And then you enter into this possible experiences there every night to deeply connect with this transcendental state. So that's something. I just say that because that's universal. Everybody falls asleep, and everybody can have this experience without needing to go to Peru or to India or Bali or anywhere. You don't need to go anywhere. You can literally do it and the the abundance of the opportunity, the availability of the opportunity, because it's going to repeat every day. That's why I say the power of the dreams is really important. Now, that said, the singing and dancing and looking at your dreams, if someone really wants to kind of shake it up and go a bit deeper, then call to the universe to connect with some people who've got technologies for doing this. And you don't need psychedelics. It can be done with breath. It can be done with just being in nature. It can be done with pure concentration. It can be done with dance and drums, and just even the presence of someone else who's deeply, deeply in it can really activate us. So there's ways to do it without taking anything, and there are many ways to do it with taking something as well. And there's many places in the world where it's very respected and supported and widely available to go and partake of a ceremony of some kind of powerful transcendental experience. And I really suggest that, for me, when I had the first experience with mushrooms, and then kind of went on a very straight, pure concentration journey for four years or so. Like, it's working out how to do it through Vipassana, going and sitting Vipassanas many times, and through my daily practice on a mat of asanas and breathing exercises before having the ayahuasca experience. But then at some point, one of my friends came back from a weekend away with a glint in his eye, a sparkle, a twinkle in his smile. And I was like, wow, what happened to you this weekend? And he told me that he'd been to the ceremony. And I was like, okay, sign me up, I want to go. I went to that one, and then boom, I just was like, right, I want to go to as many of these as I can. And I went from that one to that one to that one to that one, and like began exploring it and going deeper and deeper into it. And not everybody needs to do many. Some people can just have one. It's like really good. And some people do 1,000, and some people it's different for everybody. But they can really, really help people make quantum shifts into understanding what this is all about. Like, before, I'd had deep talks with people about God and nature and reality, and I'd looked at the chakras and the mysticism. Like I said, I've been reading these books about the saints and stuff, but it all seemed very like theoretical. Like, I was like, okay, cool, chakras, energy, okay, I'm fascinated, but I hadn't actually directly experienced it. When I began that year with those plants, it was like, oh, okay, now I understand. So not needing to I didn't need to be told the theory anymore. I had the experience, and then I knew from within.
Yeah, awesome. So how do you work with people and support people on that journey?
Hey, okay. Well, ultimately, the plan is, as I said, learn how to fly, and then just come and fly, just float in front of people, and then help people. That be like, oh, right, cool, someone can float. And I'll be like, yeah, we can float. And they're like, oh, right, wow, that's amazing. How'd you do that? I'm like, okay, cool, well, this is all the stuff you got to do. As I say, that's like my premium premium goal. Just learn how to float, come back, show people how to float, and then that be the way. So to demonstrate it rather than talk about it. You know what I mean? I was always like, all right, everyone's talking about it. Someone come and do it. So anyway, that's a plan. Now, in 2023, here on the ground, very grounded still, I've made this synergy of the arts that I call the mixed spiritual arts, and I share this in person where I am. I've been living in Barbados a couple of years, so I've been sharing this on the island with people here. I'm coming back to UK now this summer, and I'll be sharing ceremonies and retreats and experiences for people in groups and one-to-one. And I also do stuff online. So I used to, after having many years, taught 25 classes a week of cycling to that place and turning up and being in that space in my body and being able to teach the people who were there in the room with me. One of the things that happened for me with the 2020 shift and everything was that I got inspired to record my stuff and put it online and make something that could be shared across the internet that people could tune into without me having to be there. So for me, this is like, it is such an amazing, it blows my mind that like right now, someone could be doing could be leading, my voice can be leading someone. I don't even know exactly what time it's being done or where it's being done. And that is super exciting, super inspiring for me. So I made this online, I made a website and I recorded these different classes and recordings and share them on there. And I've built a community, online community, last couple of years. Been sharing stuff on there. I do a monthly challenge called the 21 for 21, which is based on a practice that I put together that is 21 minutes long, and the challenge is to do it 21 days in a row. So I have that. I have a group. I have a course that goes from the new moon to the full moon as well. Became very interested in charting it and aligning these courses with the lunar cycle as well. So that. And then also through my artwork, making paintings and prints and clothing and the different artistic exhibitions and experiences that I'm going to be hosting this summer and going forwards. So different ways, mixed spiritual arts, fine art, music. If anyone wants to listen to my music, I've got a podcast I call the Felix Price podcast, where I play guitar and sing my heart out for a while and record that and share that. So I've got some various ways in which like I channel my feeling from like the joy and the magic that I get through the ceremonies, songs that I've learned in ceremonies, songs that I've channeled myself, freestyles that I've put together, and share that out there through music as well.
I didn't know you did that. That's awesome.
Look, that there.
A man of many, many, many talents.
Oh, thank you. A channel for, like I say, like a channel for many different mediums. Like I've bit by bit been learning these different mediums: paintbrush, pencil, then the guitar, singing, drumming, performing, like calling people together. But ultimately, it's coming from that same source, just many different mediums. Yeah.
Awesome. Do you have any final takeaways that you would like to give anyone listening?
Yeah. Don't worry, be happy, do your best.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Felix. It's been really, really great. There's so much good stuff in here. So thank you so much for your time and your energy.
Thank you. Thank you too. Thank you very much. Thank you for holding space, listening to me. And if anyone's watching this, I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, going onwards. I'll see you somewhere. Take care. Thank you so much, Megan.
Listening back, there were so many things that I loved about this podcast. I love where Felix takes us in terms of connecting back to that sense of spirituality within the everyday, catching ourselves when we are just in this fixed view of reality as it appears to be, and really defining what we perceive to be spiritual, like big dance events. You know, I'm a big sucker for deep house. For me, deep house is a spiritual experience. But anyway, being at huge dance events, feeling the energy of the crowd, the music, feeling my heart so open. In those moments, we feel connected to something bigger and something greater. Similarly, I loved Felix's explanation of him as a human printer within his art, letting that deep wisdom channel through him. I studied art history at university, and the thing that drew me most to art was that it genuinely moved me. I remember sitting age 17 in the Mark Rothko room in the Tate Modern, staring at the huge abstract canvases, feeling completely engulfed, simultaneously limitless and also tiny and totally insignificant. I remember thinking, wow, I feel so small. And not in a bad way, in a deeply profound and moving way, in a somewhat comforting way. And I would return again and again, year after year, to that room just to sit and feel engulfed and feel limitless and insignificant. It was where I went to think, to not think, to just be, to be engulfed. That, for me, was a spiritual experience. And I love where Felix leads us here, to the perspective that all these modalities, technologies, they're all vehicles to something beyond what we can immediately perceive, accessing higher states within ourselves. Art and music and movement and meditation, they're not separate. As humans, we like to label and box things to make them neater to understand, when really they're all iterations of the same thing, or vehicles for transcendence, all seeking, connecting, expanding, being, connecting to something both here and something higher. Mixed spiritual arts. I'd love to know your takeaways from this podcast. Please feel free to get in touch with me via my Instagram at higherlove_with_Megan or my website higher-love.com. Felix and his family live in Barbados, but he's in the UK this summer hosting events. By the time this episode is released, he'll just be finishing up teaching at Glastonbury Festival. And you can find out where else he'll be via his Instagram at felixprice.uamsa. We'll be fortunate enough to catch his workshops at Medicine Festival in August, so if you're coming, check out the Urban Avatars workshop. We'll all be there. As always, if you enjoy the podcast, please take a moment to rate, review, and share with anyone who you feel would love this episode. Until next time, big love.